Hey guys, welcome back to another Minecraft video. So this cannon here, it takes place in two parts. The first part is the stack hybrid, so the sand will shoot out over here and it will stack here. The hybrid shot is over here, but the TNT won't explode yet, so basically all that would have happened is that it would have stacked and the hybrid shot is waiting to fuse, and it just has a bit more delay than the second part of the cannon, which is the reverse bypass nuke. So the reverse bypass nuke will hit the sand and it will shoot upwards, and the sand would have replaced this water if you're confused. So it would have hit right here and then hit this drywall and then tunnel all the way up, and yeah. So I'll show you that in action very quickly. And then I'm going to show you this 20 chunks out, but you can't really see it from 20 chunks out since it's all laggy. So I'll show you. It's still laggy from here, but you can still kind of see it. So right there you saw it just shot all the way up, and then it also hybrided this next wall, which means there would have been another wall right here if this was a raid, and then you could do the same shot again and then reverse nuke this wall. I didn't stack this all the way up to sky limit just because. And yeah, so now we're gonna cannon 20 chunks out. So all the way over here. And again, for the first wall in a raid, you'd actually just hybrid it like normal without the reverse bypass nuke, and then after that you attach the reverse bypass nuke and it will work every wall afterwards. So there you see that it's already been hybrided. I actually just broke it, and now we're just going to bypass nuke a couple walls. So I'm going to go to speed 1, and I'm going to paste the sand really quick. And oh yeah, I have to add a couple ticks. So from 20 chunks out, you're going to want on those 3 repeaters and these 3 repeaters to have 4 ticks of delay, and at close range you're going to want those to be 2, and somewhere in between you're going to want it to be 3, and that's all I'll say about that. It's just a range issue, and yeah. To keep it all on the same tick, you just have to add a crazy amount more TNT than I have here, which a lot of people do. I just didn't take the time to do that because the cannon is already laggy as it is. So, as you saw here, the wall is now gone, and then it got hybrided. This second wall got hybrided, which means we can nuke it. Okay. So now, if I spell it right, we're gonna paste the sand, and then we're gonna fire. And one thing to note is that a lot of servers have a glitch with the sand. You do have to load the cannon completely, and you can't leave it until it actually leaves the cannon and is flying away. So now you see the second wall is gone, and this wall got hybrided, which means if there was another wall, you can nuke that. So that's all I'm going to say about that, and now I'll explain how everything works. Okay, so where should I start? Okay, so I said something about these 2 shots in this cannon. You might be kind of confused, like, hey, there's only 1 propulsion, and those are the reverse bypass nuke. How do you get 2 shots? It's actually pretty simple. So this repeater here powers the first shot, and then these repeaters here power the second shot. So it's easy as that, and I made it where it exploded as early as possible, so without creating an endless signal. So it would go, from what I've tested, it would be 3 repeaters and 3 ticks, and since that's already full delay there, it's more like 2 full repeaters and 3 ticks. So if that makes any sense to you guys. So basically what that does is that this gets ignited twice and all this TNT will fall. And the neat thing is that you only have to power this part once, so the compressor will actually compress both shots to the slab, And so the first shot, as I said earlier, is the sand. So this is where the sand goes. I'll actually paste that so you guys get what I'm saying. So you need cobwebs on each of these. So this is where the sand goes, this is where the hybrid shot goes, and this is the hammer, and this is the hybrid shot. And I just, in an actual cannon you wouldn't have to separate it like this, but this is just to help you guys visually. And this is where the hybrid sand goes. And I only put about, I always just stack to where this hammer ends, and since I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, since I have 12 dispensers, it'd probably stack a little bit more than 8, not much. And that explains that part of the cannon. So that all is the first shot. And I'll tell you a quick trick. So basically, this repeater powers, and then there's going to be 2 ticks there. So from the time that the string of redstone gets power and the time that this gets ignited, you should have, first from that repeater you should add 10 repeaters, that's equal to 40 ticks, and then that's what I have here. And then you power these pistons, which will extend and then push the sand out right before the shot. And that's just a good trick. And this part here is just what pushes the sand into the web, so it happens immediately. And you actually don't need a pulse limiter to push this top web out, just because you're only stacking 8 sand, so you don't need it to have a quick pulse. And that's just a small tidbit. And over here you carry the signal, and for each compressor it's 2 ticks before the other compressor, if that makes sense. So this explodes, this is the last part to explode. 2 ticks before that, these 2 compressors would explode, and 2 ticks before these compressors explode. So that's just something about compressing if you don't know that. So it'd start here, 2 ticks later here, and then 2 ticks later it will get shot over here. And now I'm going to explain some of the more difficult parts. So I'm just going to break in here really quick. So if you notice, this back part gets compressed here and it gets shot out, and then this one actually gets pushed out 1 block further to the side. So where this TNT is compressed over the slab, that TNT over here is compressed right here. And if you don't want the cannon to blow up, because on laggy servers it might blow up, just put a ladder here instead. So I should actually do that so you guys get what I'm saying. And that just ensures that nothing will blow up. Actually, you're never completely sure of that, but it's just better than a slab. And that's just a side note. And what else should I say? Oh yeah, this is probably the most confusing part of the cannon, is these 2 pistons. So what will happen is that the sand gets compressed right here against this guider, and the hybrid and hammer will get compressed against this guider. So this is for the first part. And then for the second part, since the sand doesn't actually stack all the way up here where this block is, since it doesn't stack all the way up here, it only actually stacks to about there, you have to add a second guider. So after the first shot happens, these pistons here extend, and it will be like this. So it's 2 blocks below the actual guider. And then that means when the reverse bypass nuke hits this part of the barrel, it will be 2 blocks lower, and it will actually hit the sand backboard, which will only stack to here. And if you didn't have that, the reverse bypass nuke would just shoot right over the sand, which you don't want to happen. So this is the most difficult. That was the most difficult part of this cannon, trying to figure that part out. And yeah, so this is just a hammer. And important thing to note is that since you're doing 2 shots here with this like loop of redstone there, the hammer would get powered twice. So it's important to add a pulse limiter, which will basically cause the cannon to only dispense the hammer once instead of twice. Because if there was a second hammer, it would just Okay, sorry about that. I reached 10 minutes on Bandicam, which automatically stops the recording. So, basically, the pulse limiter makes it where the hammer only gets dispensed once, and if it happened a second time, it would just mess up the reverse bypass nuke. So, I was fooling around with this cannon for so long, and then I realized, like, oh no, there's this hammer going off, and that was a big problem. So make sure you don't do that in a real raid. And I think that is everything. So let's move on to the next cannon, I guess. Okay guys, so this cannon here is a horizontal stacker basically, and it follows a lot of the concepts of a midair stacker, just so that you can get the precise Y level, which I'll explain in a minute. So let me put on speed 10 really quick. So over here we just have like some of the walls of a sky base, and if you notice there are slabs, sponges, and the sponges are right below the walls. So all the slabs are right underneath where you normally have to stack, which means you'd have to stack all the way down here. And imagine this at sky limit, so you'd have to stack 200 sand for each wall. To fix that problem, we have this bad boy. And this is just an experimental version. It's the first time I've ever built one of these. I'm not sure if this has been built before, but just in case it hasn't, I claim credit. Not really. So right there, you see that it just stacked on all of these slabs and sponges. And what that will do is now you don't have to stack the 200 sand. You can just use a small stacker or something. So you could use like a one-shot lean and then just tear through all these walls really quickly. And another thing you can do is, I just showed you guys this cannon, or depending on how I edit it, I'll show you this cannon next. I don't know yet. So what this cannon does is that it is a reverse bypass nuke. So if you, let's say this was at like Y200, you could, after you stack all this sand, you could place this cannon there, and then you can stack about like 2 sand or whatever you want, and then it will reverse bypass nuke the entire wall, which means the entire wall will be removed basically. And what that means is that the entire sky base is open. And the reason why I mentioned this cannon with that cannon is that since you're no longer cannoning from bedrock, but at Y200, you can cut down on the amount of dispensers here, so you could basically like slice this into a quarter of what it actually is. So that's just, it might be more realistic at a sky base, because doing this on a 100 walled like bedrock to sky limit base, that is going to be really costly. But maybe at sky limit that might be potentially affordable for more factions. I don't really know. But this cannon, like I said, it's kind of experimental, and I noticed that there is some sand loss in the sand plate. I'm just guessing, I just don't have the best of timings. And another thing too is that if you were doing this over 100 balls, at least the version I have, it won't go all 100 balls. It will only go from here to there, which is about 80 blocks, or no, I don't know how many blocks actually. Let's test really quick. So I'll enable chat really quick. So go all the way over here. So 55, 45. So it goes about like 77 blocks if I counted that correctly, which is pretty cool. And yeah. So if you don't want to stack 200 sand for each wall, that might be something you should look into. And I hope other cannoners develop this further. So now I'll just explain some of it. So this is the propulsion / hammer. So this is what actually shoots the sand. And so what most hammers do, you actually like shoot it towards the wall, and it will stack like normal. What this cannon actually does is the hammer / propulsion, because it's basically one and the same in this cannon. So it will get compressed over here and then get compressed here. And then I'm not going to go into too much detail about this, because you can just look at my midair stacker guide that I posted on my channel, but then this will get launched into the air like this, and then it will be about like 1 block above where those slabs are over there. Sorry, I don't think, oh, I do have Optifine where I can zoom. So where the slabs are, like right there, that's where, about the height of where this will be. And then the sand at the same time will also get compressed there. And if you remember from my other video that the sand is actually like slightly below the hammer TNT, but since this is the propulsion, it's slightly higher than the sand. So that means it will get shot at a very, very slight downwards angle. And that downwards angle will allow it to stack on sponges and slabs and anything. So even if this was all slabs, it would still stack. The sponges have nothing to do with it. It's just how most people set up their bases. And yeah, it's a pretty cool concept. I really do hope people look into this further. I think it does have a lot of potential. And it's actually a really easy build when you think about it. All it takes is, it's basically using a midair stacker without the hammer. That's all it is. And then you use a crap ton of force right here. And yeah, I think that's about it for this cannon. Okay, so the next cannon, and this will probably be the last cannon I'll put in this video, is these are nether cannons. So basically a lot of servers in the nether disable lava, or you can't place it or anything. So the problem is how are you going to cannon 20 chunks without using water or anything like that? And this cannon it was just a request that people asked me to build, basically. Or people had a question on how to raid nether bases, so I put together this video for them. So before I built a cannon with dispensers, and then afterwards they told me like, oh, dispensers are disabled too. So I didn't know that. I don't do much nether raiding, so I put individual TNT blocks here. So I'll show you both. So the first one with dispensers, and I'll fly over to the wall that I placed. Okay, so it blew up right there. I'll do that one more time. And one thing to note is that I'll try to fly over there more quickly this time. Is that I'm gonna hurry really quick. So it hits the wall and then it drops multiple blocks. It probably hit about like right here. So Y75, and then since I had so much delay, it dropped. So if you wanted to, you could shorten the delay a little bit, and then you can just get more of the wall of each base. So if you start low and then shorten the delay a little bit, you can just get a bigger hole in the wall if that's what you desire. And so when it hit the wall, it was about level 75, so it does drop a decent amount of blocks below the actual barrel. But I'll just explain really quick what happens. So turn off my high speed abilities, and then I'll place this block really quick. Okay, so all the dispensers here get dispensed. So some of them fall into this gap, most of them fall into these two blocks. So these two pistons here are double piston extenders. So once all the sand lands here, both of these pistons will extend and then get compressed right here. One thing to note is that if you guys remember, pistons push TNT slightly over a block, and while pistons are extending, they are actually an entity for a short amount of time. So if these go off at the same game tick, the pistons will actually trap the sand inside of the piston on the other side, and then it will blow up your cannon. So what you need to do is either one of these. I usually do this one just because it's closer to the button. What you do is power this one, and then one tick later you do this one. So what happens is that all the TNT actually get compressed over here, and they will slightly land on this block, and then this is still that piston there is still extended, so it'd be like right there, and then it's no longer an entity because it would have just frozen there for a few seconds, and then this one will do the double piston extender thing, and it will get compressed towards this piston. So while this is still an entity, this is actually a full block, and then it will get pushed down. So that's just an important thing, really important thing to note about this cannon design that I built. And then the last part is that this piston extends and then pushes it out right there. And then I'll have to get out again. And then this piston there extends, and then all the TNT drops a few blocks. I'll show you that really quickly again. So you see it drops below the cannon a good deal amount of blocks, and that's just so that the cannon won't blow up since there's no water. And then the actual TNT shot comes right here. If you want more scatter, or if you want more TNT going into the shot, you can actually lower this, because if, as you saw right there, it drops way farther. It drops a lot further than it has to, or is more than necessary. So I just put one piston just because it's quickly, but if you want to upgrade it, it's very easily upgradable. You just have to mess with the piston delay there. And since this was the first time I built one of these, so ideally you'd put both of these at the same Y level and then make this piston extend, and then one tick later this piston extend. But since it's a block lower, you do have to adjust it a little bit, because the TNT up there needs to be a little below the TNT that's actually being shot, because what will happen is that both TNT fall, and then the propulsion will launch the scatter up here, and because there's so much force, it will basically shoot straight up really quickly, and then this will guide it to shoot straight forward. So that's how the cannon works, and this cannon is perfectly accurate like any other cannon. Accuracy is not an issue. That's just something else I'd want to throw out. So this cannon is like the same thing, except with dispensers, you can compress everything into one block. With TNT, if you did that, you'd lose half the power, so I just made it twice as wide, and then everything's the same except I added this row of pistons here, which will push everything right here before the double piston extender action happens. Same thing, one has to occur a tick before the other. And then this time I fixed that issue, so both pistons are in the same level. And then again, you have to individually place the TNT being shot right there. And again, it has a lot of delay, so it will hit the wall and then drop a few blocks. And yeah, so I'll show you this in action. Okay, so it drops about the same as that hole, and yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed these cannons this episode, and see you guys next week. Actually, it probably won't be next week. I should mention that I'm in high school and I'm pretty busy, so I can't do these on a weekly basis. So even though I call them cannons of the week, I don't think I've ever had them a week in a row. So just wanted to mention that really quick. So see you guys next time. Bye.